and we're good. So
Okay.
thank you for finally meeting with me. It's
Yeah,
been
it's
a
been
lot of trial and error for this
yeah, it's been I don't know, it's been how many months now you've been trying to get me to do this?
since TKO, pretty much, like right after. So
Yeah.
you're
Uh,
you're busy. I
yeah.
and then when you're
Yeah.
not busy, I'm like out doing something. So
Mhm. Yeah, it's hard to get the schedules to line up, and then today's snowing out, so there's not a whole lot to be done, so it's a perfect
yeah,
day.
awesome. Well, I'm
Mhm.
super excited. So let's just jump into it. So
Okay.
tell us, how did you get started with riding, and what kind of bike were you on?
Just started with riding or started with hard
Yeah.
enduro? Because that's a whole
No,
nother.
riding. Riding
Okay.
first. Start at the beginning.
Okay. Well, I've probably been on a dirt bike since I don't really know the exact age, but probably 5 years old. We started off on a Z50. So me and my brother, we wore the like two sets of tires off that Z50, and that was like our all time everything bike, which we weren't supposed to jump or race or anything like that, but of course, kids will be kids. We did, but and so that was that. And then my dad was like, "Well, if you want a different bike, you're gonna have to save for it." So from that point, I did a lot of chores, a lot of this, a lot of that, and I bought a horse. And I sold the horse, and I bought my own 50. So then I was through the moon because it had the new shrouds, I guess, not unlike the old white Z50 and stuff. And then from there, I just slowly progressed selling that bike, fixing a different one, worked my way up till I got to where I could get a decent sized bike and ride it. But I didn't really start racing until I'm trying to think the exact year. Um, I want to say 2020 is like when I first got into actually racing. But prior to that, I watched Jarvis when I was like probably 12 years old on TV. We didn't have a lot of channels, so we happened to see the Red Bull event of I think it was Romaniacs, and Jarvis had won I think that year. And from that point forward, I was like, "Oh, I would love to do that. I would love to do that." And at the time, I had a 150R Honda, and I tried to set that up for hard enduro, which is not really a hard enduro bike, but I trained what I could with a
Yeah.
150R for several years, and that's kind of how that went. And so then I didn't really have. Then a couple of years I had to take off from riding because it just life kind of got in the way. And then trying to see how I got. Where did I go from there? I'm trying to think. Okay, so I think it was 2019. I finally had got another dirt bike, which I had ridden in between here and there quite a bit. I mean, not quite a bit, but on and off. I would get a dirt bike and ride some, but I never really like put in a lot of time with it. And then I think it was 2019. I went with some of my friends to an off-road park, and we went down there. And then I met this one guy, um, and I kind of got hooked in with him. And I never really rode with him much, just at that off-road park. And then he invited me to go down to a place called Briary Creek, Kentucky. So I went there and rode with him. And this was
Mhm.
I had started hair scrambles, I think, at that, or no, I didn't start hair scrambles yet, but I went down there to ride with him, and then I got introduced to the goon climbers, the hill climb guys. So from that point,
Wait,
I was all about climbing hills. I was all these guys all had extended bikes, but I was just stock length trying to do everything they were doing on a stock length 250 KTM at the time. It was a two-stroke, and I was actually keeping up with them pretty good for most part. There was not much they climbed that I didn't, so I kind of got a little name there from
Nice.
doing that. And then I started racing some hare scrambles, which my first my first hare scramble I think I ever went to. I got partway into the lap, which I had an older KTM. I'm jumping all over my story here, but uh I got started and I I didn't even get halfway into a lap and my kickstart fell off.
Mhm.
And everybody kind of calls me a big sender when I'm riding, so I think I got a little bit of that from hill climbing for the hill climb guys. I was on a stock length bike, just basically stock dirt bike, and they were all on studded tire, this and that, and I would try to do everything they would do on my stock length bike, so it kind of made me a big sender, I guess, in a way, because I was trying to keep up with these other guys that have a lot bigger bikes than I did at the time. So it, I think it did help my hard enduro mindset too, because I see a line or something and then I just kind of send it and go for it. I guess I'm kind of known for that, I guess, a little bit. But um, yeah, so I went down there and I was down there almost every weekend riding down there hill climbing. And then I did some hare scrambles and some of those went good and some of those did not went not very good. But I'm more of a technical rider, so hare scrambles are not my favorite thing. I do them to try to keep my like speed, try to learn more speed, but it's I'm more of a technical rider, so when I did the hare scrambles, I would be like, uh, man, I'd always catch up to everybody when it got kind of technical, and I'm like, man, I should almost do hard enduros. I should almost do hard enduro roofs, but I uh, I never really knew how to even get to hard enduro or everything because I never really did much racing. I did like only a handful of hare scrambles. So then the Goon Climbers invited me to go to a closer, like a Perry State Forest closer. So at that point, I went there and I met Chris Davis, the Hawking Hills bike rental, and he was at the hill climb thing, and we kind of rode together a little bit there. And I didn't really, I mean, I know that I was like, man, he does pretty good, whatever, not. And then that closed, and I hadn't seen him all winter, so I continued to ride with the hill climb guys all winter, big sending all these hills and stuff. And then the opener of Perry State Forest, I come back and I was on a 354 stroke, I think at that time. And I was hill climbing and then I met Chris Davis there again. So he was like, well, I'm going to go ride the single track and this and that. And I was there with the hill climb guys. I said, I would like to come ride some single tracking with you because I like riding the single track stuff. So he's like, oh yeah, come on, let's go. And I was riding with him and my bike kept overheating because the four strokes and the 350 just was not really great for tight single track. So I, uh, I kept riding and it kept overheating and overheating. He's like, oh, you ride pretty good. But he goes, that four stroke just kind of sucks. And I'm like, I said, I'm going to buy a two stroke. Just mark my words. I will buy a two stroke, 300. He's like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. He goes, sure, whatever, whatever. And I said, no, I'm going to buy one. Just give me some time. And he's like, oh, yeah. Well, I went home and I advertised that 350. I was like, I'm getting a freaking two stroke 300 because I was like, so then like probably 2 or 3 weeks later, I sold that. And then a couple weeks after that, I got my first 300 two stroke, which was a 2017 KTM 300. And I called up Chris and said, "Hey man, I got my 2-stroke. I want to come ride." He's like, "Okay." He said, "We got some guys coming in from Australia to ride," and then he goes, "We're gonna have a little like hard enduro training thing." He said, "Come on out." So I came up there. I rode with him that day, and like I was kind of new to actual hard enduro riding. I had played around in my yard and stuff, which I mean I kind of practiced a little bit of log jumping and this and that, but not nothing crazy. And he was like, "Oh, this is hard enduro." It was like taking me in these rock gardens and stuff, and I was just kind of blown away at that point. Um, so then he said, "Well, you ought to come to the U.S. Hard Enduro this weekend," which was the one in Ohio. It was Fallen Timbers that year. That would have been trying to think, was that 20? That would have been 2022.
Okay.
Or 2023. That might have been 2023. I'm not sure. Anyways, so I was like, I don't know. I never done nothing like that. I was like, I was like on the fence about going to it, and then finally I was like, last minute, I said, I'm throwing my bike in the truck and I'm going to race this hard enduro. So I jumped in the truck, threw all my stuff on, or put all my stuff in there, went up there, and for my first hard enduro, we literally I didn't know what I'm getting into. The farthest I've ever done was hair scrambles, so I was just like kind of going into it blind here, and
Yeah.
we got to the starting line. Well, qualifier. There was actually a qualifier on that one. I forgot, but the qualifier day, I was like, I did 2 laps and I qualified really good. I can't remember what it was for my first hard enduro kind of thing, and I did a pretty good qualifier. So I had I don't remember, like a 5th row start, which I was pretty happy with for my first hard enduro. And it was nice and dry that day, and it was like, oh, like you had like 3 hours to do so many laps, and I did my 2 laps in like 2 hours or something, or a little under. So I was feeling pretty good. And then the next day, it literally just rained and rained and rained. I didn't. If anybody knows anything about the Ohio races, when they rain, it just turned to absolute crap. Like it just gets horrible. Well, I pulled in, like everybody was getting stuck in their vans and everything, and like we pulled up to the starting line, and the rain literally they had like a delay, kind of like TKO had, and it we sat there for like 45 minutes in the starting line getting drenched. I mean, just flat out drenched. And I am like, holy crap. We're all freezing cold. Take off, go to the first just very gradual downhill, and everybody's off their bikes, like walking their bikes down these hills, piling up into each other. Just, it was a mess. And I'm like, holy crap, what did I get myself into? These guys are crazy doing these hard enduros. And I kept pushing on, like got about halfway through that race, and I met back. Chris Davis caught up to me, and me and him kind of helped each other through the rest of that race. Well, not the rest of it, through quite a ways of it, and then we got to this one hill, and I was usually pretty good at hills, but it was so muddy. I was there for probably 30 minutes trying to make this one hill, like, and everybody knows that hill that I'm talking about, probably if they know the Fallen Timbers of that year. Yeah, even like Nick Farringer and a lot of those guys were struggling on this hill. So, and Chris Davis, he had somebody else, and they pulled each other to the top. And I was down there hitting it. My bike was flipping down this hill, and like your bike weighs so much when it's that muddy. Like there's 40 pounds of mud on your bike, so it just kept wearing me down. I said, I got like 3 more hits in me to make this hill, and if I don't make it, I'm gonna quit. And I think after like the second more hit after I said that, I made it. So I was like, well, I'm gonna try to finish a lap then. So I kept pushing on, caught back up to Chris, got by him, and then like I kept pushing and pushing and finally got to this one spot almost to the finish. And I was like, if I don't make it up this lift, I don't even physically have the strength to pick my bike back up. Like that was how tired I was. Like, cause it was a 5 hour race, I believe it was. So I was like, I literally don't even have the strength to stand up if I
Oh
fall
my
down.
God.
And I got up that
Yeah.
bank, got through the finish line, like, and I just laid on the ground there. And I was like, this is crazy crap, hard enduros. And I was racing B class at the time. And I think at that race, I might have got third. So that was my first hard enduro. And I was in B class at that time. And I got third. And I was pretty happy about that because, like, going from a first hard enduro, never even been in the world of that, and then jumping in and getting that. So I was pretty ecstatic about that. So then, trying to think after that, I started riding with Chris Davis doing strictly hard enduro after that, pretty much, and
Mhm.
LTKO. And well, I had to miss the what the heck is the Pennsylvania race? Oh, and I missed
Roar.
that. Then I went to yeah, Tough Like Roar. I don't know, my mind went blank. But so then I went to TKO. I That was my technically my second hard enduro would have been TKO that year, and I raced it. It was super hot. I was so freaking nervous there, like because it was such a big event, and I was just like every race, I was
Mhm.
just extremely nervous. And I actually made it to Sunday on my first year of going, my second hard enduro, first year of hard enduro on, and so I was pretty happy about that. I ended up, I think, second in B class down there at TKO. For my second hard enduro, I was like stupid ecstatic about that. So from that point, Chris Davis goes, well, if you want to race for me, he is, but you're going to have to go to A class. I was like, well, crap, because I was like, I kind of wanted to sandbag a little bit, but uh, so I signed up for A class, and then we raced. I'm trying to remember. I raced the entire fall series of that year, which ended in Arkansas,
Mhm.
and I was top three, I think, at every race. I can't remember what which races was what, and then I ended up winning the fall series in points. So that was kind of basically my first year of hard enduro. So I was pretty happy about that for my first year of hard enduro. And that was actually been 2023 because yeah, then we came into this year and it just all fell apart. No, not totally, but it I race battle the goats for the first time this year, and I
Mhm.
got I blew out my clutch cover on Chicken Fight Hill like 30 minutes, or that's not even 30 minutes into the race, and it took me 30 minutes to get uh it all changed out and everything and get back on the course. So by that time I was behind C class, everything. So that was just really hard because I spent the whole entire race doing playing catch up there. And I got
Mhm.
right before the finish and I got to this one spot and I sat there for probably 30 minutes and I could not get out of this little ravine. And I finally had to end my race there after 5 hours of racing. And I talked to a lot of the other class and my class, and they said they had help getting out of that ravine. So by the time I got there, though, my whole class had already went through
Mhm.
because I had the 30 minutes of trying to get my stuff fixed. But I
Mhm.
then I'm trying to think where we went after that, and then Virginia. This year just didn't seem to quite go the way I planned. Like Virginia, I had missed a turn So that I was racing really good. I was racing right up near the front, and then I missed a turn, and that
Mhm.
cost me a 30-minute penalty at Virginia. And then
Mhm.
something came up, and I had family members pass, so I had to miss Roar again this year.
Mhm.
And then I think was TKO after Roar. So then I got to Roar, or I missed Roar, went to TKO this year, and TKO was a lot harder
Mhm.
this year, in my opinion, as far as the field, because there was a lot more good riders, I think, at TKO this year than years prior. So
Yeah.
um, I don't remember what I ended up there, 47th overall, I think, out of everybody, which is not great, but it's
Mhm.
something. And then I was being stupid and I was trying to fly a paramotor thing and I crashed and broke my hand. So that pretty much
Yeah.
threw me all the way out until this last race in Ohio came, and I was able to get on the bike and race that last race, but I wasn't quite up to 100% there. And then I had a little mishap, crashed into a tree, and messed up my clutch lever. And so then I spent the whole rest of that race trying to play catch up too. So this year just didn't quite pan out like last year, but it's next this coming year's plans are supposed to be. I'm gonna put in a lot of time and try to make it come together a little better for sure. So that was that's kind of
That's
a
good.
pretty much how I got into hard enduro, I guess. But yeah, growing up, we were never really allowed to race or jump a dirt bike or anything. So like going from that and into the
Mhm.
racing world and stuff, it's a whole experience. Yeah, like we weren't even allowed to. Yeah, like we would get grounded if we like were jumping our dirt bikes. So yeah, and we went in, and then from that going into racing all over the country is kind of different. But yeah,
Yeah. So you've been mostly on the East Coast. What's
yeah.
your favorite race out there?
On the East Coast,
Yeah.
that's pretty tough. I like Battle of the Goats because it has like to me, I haven't got to go to Roar yet because 2 years in a row it just didn't work out with life. But um, to me, Battle of the Goats was a
Mhm.
really more of an actual hard enduro in my opinion. But Virginia is a very fun
Mhm.
course to ride. So it's probably a toss up between the two of them. Arkansas was really fun too. So I don't know.
Okay.
I forgot about Arkansas. Probably Arkansas would have been my funnest because it was just
Yeah.
nothing but rocks, and I really love the rocks. So rocks are kind of my specialty. So I really liked Arkansas. But yeah,
Rocks
which
and
that's
hill
kind of
climbs.
rocks and hill climbs. That's my thing. The wide open single track is not my thing. That's where I usually lose time. So I usually pass a lot of people back in the rocks, and then it's kind of battle of that. So if there's more technical, normally I excel than if there's more wide open. Like so that's kind of how mine goes.
Yeah.
Normally.
So how long have you had the trials bike?
The
And
trials
how
bike.
how has the trials bike played into all of this?
The trials bike is I've had it for probably right after I met Chris Davis, so that would have been 2 years, going on 2 years now. Um, and it's played quite a big difference in my riding for sure. I would say because 99% of the time, like where I'm living right now, it's there's not much riding. So, but we have like 3 acres here, and I mess around on 3 acres with my trials bike on a pretty regular basis. So, and everything on your trials bike
Hmm.
is just translates right over to a dirt bike. So, I mean, I always try to tell everybody if you have limited riding area, get you a trials bike and just play around in your backyard. Like you can have literally hardly no, I mean, just a little bit of ground and you can learn so much on a trials bike. And it makes everything you do wrong seem to be more vivid on a trials bike than it would be if you're on a dirt bike. Like in your dirt bike, you're like, what did I do wrong? Why didn't I get up over that log or whatever? On a trials bike, it's like, oh, it's because I didn't throw my hips forward or it's because I didn't do that or whatever. So I definitely try
Hmm.
to have recommend everybody to get one if you don't have like a lot of riding area. Yeah. But yeah, it's just an
I
old
think that's
trials
good
bike though.
advice. I definitely enjoyed my time when I was on one. Yeah.
How how long did you ride one?
Oh, it was only one day. I only had
Only
it for the
one
day.
day.
I went out and I rode with my friend. She does a lot of trial stuff. So she let me borrow
I
her bike because my bike was having clutch issues. So we had to
I
fix
see.
that.
I just rode mine last weekend with a big group of dirt bikes and I was climbing everything they was on it and they were pretty shocked. But yeah, I try to ride it as much as I can. Also, it helps you get that mental note of keeping your feet on the pegs because you pretty much have to. You can't sit down and drag your feet along, so it's kind of automatically gets you that mental note of, well, I have to stand and put pressure to the wheel and whatever not. So I that's another big reason I tell a lot of people that are trying to get into hard enduro ride a trials bike because it will make you stand. Like, and in my opinion, standing is a huge deal in hard enduro. Like if you can get comfortable standing by putting your foot on an obstacle and be standing on the peg and whatever not, it makes a huge difference in a hard enduro situation to have your feet on the pegs.
Mhm.
But
Good to know. I like that.
hmm
I don't get a whole lot of time to put my feet down. If I try and put my foot down, usually that results in me falling. So I've gotten a
well,
lot
that
better about keeping my feet on the pegs and just not even trying to dab.
yeah, that's another thing. I'm like I'm trying to help a lot of people because a lot of people try to take my advice and this and that, and I'll try to tell them something, but I don't realize like how tall I am because I'm like 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", somewhere in there, and I can literally stand behind my bike and like move it around, be standing behind my back fender. And a lot of these people are like, I'm trying to give them
Mhm.
advice. I'm like, just put your foot here. And they're like, I can't touch the ground. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. And then you have to ride a little different here. It's not, it's not the same. So I have a hard, I try to remember that when I'm trying to help people like get through obstacles and stuff. But yeah, if yeah, you just like try to find a place to plant your foot though, like on a rock if you're in a technical set. Like look ahead and find like imagine where you're gonna put your foot next if you're not a tall rider. Like try to think about like, oh, I'm gonna get my front tire here and my foot's gonna land there or whatever not because I know it's something that a lot of shorter riders struggle with is they get their bike to there and then there's like nowhere to put their foot. So like you have to try to like look out ahead and see where plan it out. You almost like plan everything you do out ahead of time. Like you have to be able to see what's going on, like see what's going to happen before it happens.
Mhm.
Almost not always is a workout in the way you plan in your mind, but trust me, I know that. But yeah, in my mind, it's like, oh, I'm gonna send
Definitely.
this rock and go around everybody, and it doesn't usually work out, but sometimes it does, and that's kind of how I get the name for the big fender because sometimes it does work, and I look like a pro rider, but and then other times it's like, oh, look at that idiot, he just splattered into a big rock and fell off of it. Um,
Yeah, that ride
yeah,
you did with what was it, American Hard Enduro at Windrock, and they posted a
yeah,
video of you, like, going up that crazy line. That was insane. And I was like, "What is
yeah.
he doing right now?"
That was I looked at it and look. They said, well, they took me to the top of that mountain, and they were like, well. we have a rock up here, but we've never seen anybody like get up on it. Well, they said they wanted me to jump off of it. So I went on the back
Mhm.
side, and it's like probably a 3 foot splat. Like you have to like splat into it to get up onto it, maybe a little higher even. So I got up on it, jumped off of it, and they're like, "Oh my goodness!" They were so happy, and I was like, "I think I can go up it, like that big slab." And they're like, "There's no way you can go up that." I'm like, "Yeah, I think I can get up it." Like I had to sit there and like psych myself out, and like my somehow when I'm riding, like when I go to do something like that, I just like my brain shuts off and I just like go for it. I don't know, and that's got me into some pretty bad spots before, but it's also got me up some pretty bad spots before. So I looked at it and looked at it, and I kept rolling up to it and rolling up to it. And finally, I was like, you know what? I think I can make it. And the first time I did it, I'm trying to remember. I kind of chickened. I chickened out a little bit. I got all the way to the top, and it was like, ah, and I slid my bike back down off it, and I just immediately jumped back up, and I'm like, nope, I can make this now. Like I kind of felt it out, and I was like, jump back up, rode back down the hill, come at it again, and then I got my bike up on there. And if I would have like halfway chickened out again, but I got my bike up on there, and then I just crawled up behind it. But if I probably would have been like trying to use my own advice and stayed on the pegs, I probably would have went right up it. But I did get up it, but it wasn't 100% clean. But the videos do no justice to that rock though, because it's really sketchy, like really sketchy. Because if you go off to the right, it was like a 10-foot drop. So it was definitely
Oh, that's
a
nothing.
sketchy, huh? And that's nothing. Yeah, I uh, I did a hill down in Kentucky when I was riding with the hill climb guys, and I thought I broke my ribs that day because it just like so steep at the bottom, and only extended bikes I've ever climbed it. And I was kind of at that point, I was doing pretty good, so I was like, I kind of had myself maybe a little more built up than I could ride, and I tried this one hill, and I got up almost to the top, and then didn't make it. And that's another thing I'm known for is like not letting my bike go. They're like, you never let go of your bike. Like people will let their bikes slip down a hill, and I'm like, no, I gotta pay for this thing. Like I'm gonna hold on to it for dear life. And I held on to it, and it yanked me off the hill. So then I had like a 15-foot drop to my rib cage, and oh, I was gasping for air. And I'm pretty sure I fractured the ribs that day, but I never went and got it checked out, but it's healed up fine now. But yeah, I that's why I said sometimes it does get me into some situations being a big sender, but it also gets you a name too. So you take the good and the bad.
Well, I'm currently known as the girl who fell down the mountain out here, so I get it.
How exactly did that go down? You just front tire wash or?
I No, there was this huge rock, and I knew I was gonna hit it, and it was, like, embedded, but when I
Hmm.
hit it, it knocked the rock loose. So when my back tire hit it, it just slid out, and so
I
then I went
see.
down the mountain. So,
I
yeah, it
see.
was a lot of fun.
How far did you
I was,
go?
like my bike, uh, like 30-ish feet.
Wow, that's a pretty good fall.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
the GoPro, like, got ripped off of my helmet and, like but the bike went over me at one point because it, like, smashed into my chest, and I was like, "I'm so glad I'm wearing a chest protector because that could've been really bad."
Yeah, I never really wear a chest
But,
protector.
yeah,
I
I a guy oh, I fall too much to not. But a guy, I guess, went off of it last year and broke his ribs, like, in the exact same spot. It's like there's a sign right there that has his name on it because that's where he went off, and I was like, "Yeah, maybe this is a bad spot, you guys."
sounds like it's a pretty bad spot if there's been multiple people going off of that spot. Or maybe you guys are just making the new
Yeah.
line.
Yeah, the dude Yeah. No, there's like that's the thing. It's like super skinny single track right there, like on the
Nice.
side. And that is the only spot where it's actually like a cliff like drop off. The rest of it is like there's like a gradual like drop to it. So
Mm-hmm.
anywhere else you can make that mistake and it's totally fine. It is only in that like 10-foot section that it is just a complete drop off.
It
So
feels like
yeah,
you should
I'm
be
just
extra
lucky, I
careful in that
guess.
10-foot section.
I had never been there before, so I didn't know, and I would have been fine had that rock not moved. So, like, I didn't like looking back at the footage and everything, the guy who's behind me, like, there wasn't anything I could have done different to prevent that, which sucks because like that's scary, but like it wasn't my mistake. And I don't know if that
I
makes it
see.
better or worse.
Hmm. Maybe. I don't know. You think you could have seen a rock or seen it ahead of time if you'd have been paying attention, maybe? Or not?
I mean, I saw it. I knew I was gonna hit it, and I was totally fine with being able to hit it. But when it came loose was the thing, and it was like this
Oh,
big. It was gigantic.
I got I
So,
gotcha.
like, it wasn't a rock that I anticipated like coming out of the
Yeah,
ground.
I
So,
understand. Yeah, I did something similar to that in TKO the first year I was there. I was coming down one of the fire roads at TKO, and I every lap I kept seeing this one rock, and I was like, I'd go around it, and I'd lose a little bit of speed. I'd lose a little bit of speed, and every time I go around it, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just hit that rock on the next lap, and I've come down through there in the next lap, like third gear, and hit that rock, and it did pretty much exactly what you said too. It just whoosh. My front tire went out, and I'm going like 40 mile an hour
nice.
at this point, and off the fire road I went down through the weeds. Like I literally was rolling through the trees. I don't know how I didn't hit a tree, like tumbling end over end through the woods, and was like, whoa, I shouldn't have hit that rock, I guess. And then jumped back up, ran up to my bike, and then at that point my bars were like twisted down. So I rode the last 2 miles of TKO with like hand completely 90 degrees my bars. But yeah, so I guess I can kind of relate to that a little bit.
Yeah, and it's sometimes you just you think the rock is gonna stay planted, and then it doesn't. So,
Yeah, yeah, I just have to be prepared for that next time. Every rock can
yeah.
move.
Well, and I've never done single track like on an exposed like hillside like that before. So I was like a
I
little
see.
bit nervous at first, and then I was actually starting to feel really good about it, and they had said that like we were close to the end. So I was like, okay, cool.
I'm getting
And
a little
then
overconfident.
like I was just like I might have because I might have been going a little fast. So the group that I was with was like an A class group, and I'm
I
definitely not
see.
an A rider. So like I was feeling really good, and then that happened, and I didn't feel so good anymore.
Shoot. Yeah. I was trying to, I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something to that, but dang it. No, I can't remember.
Just be better.
Huh? No, no. I mean, obviously that too, but
Thanks,
but
thank you.
no. I forgot what I was going to say to that. Dang it. I lost my train of thought. Um,
That's fine. Let's go back to you and
mm,
your writing stuff. So like when you started riding or at any point, have you done like any formal training clinics, anything like that? Have you taken any of those?
I actually have not taken any clinics. I used to watch a YouTube video or a YouTube channel that was I think it was like Gumby Riders or something. They were some older dudes from Australia, and I would watch a lot of those and just go out here on my 150R and like try to figure out how to hit a log. And I would spend hours out there at that point because when I was on my 150R, I didn't have to go to work or anything, so
Yeah.
it was just I would just go outside and just spend hours on my bike, and I would practice pivot turns and clutch control and this and that. And I was really obsessed with stoppies for a while, so there was a lot of going over the bars that didn't never really turn into a good stoppie, just a lot of going over the bars. But no, I never really did much clinicals or clinics and anything like that. I just I think I mostly just practiced by myself, and then we're like, I think I just practiced by myself so much I got really good, and I didn't realize how, like, I didn't realize that I'd gotten good until I went out and rode with other people, and they're like, holy crap, dude, like you need to be racing, like you need to be like you really good at what you're doing. And I'm like, I didn't know. I just rode with myself
Yeah.
all the time, so I just assumed that like everybody rode the same, you know. But yeah, I think mostly just being out there, and you can learn more. What I've discovered is you can learn more in an hour a day just honing, like working on a specific skill each day than you can going on a 6 hour trail ride with a bunch
Mhm.
of buddies. Like you'll learn stuff going on a big trail ride, but or even a hard enduro ride, but like if you actually spend time trying to like nitpick yourself and see how your feet need to stand on the pegs and just however anything like that, your body positioning, if you spend time just actually honing on that stuff, you'll get a lot better just by doing that rather than just going on a big ride, which it's not the funnest thing to do. But if you got a couple guys that like to kind of sit there and pick at each other and say, oh, I think you've done this wrong or try this, I think you can gain a lot of more skill by doing that than to just go out and ride. But going out and ride, it's good to go out and ride too, because it kind of develops, like makes you push a little bit too if you go out and ride with a big group of people, because you're like,
Yeah.
you don't want to be the slowest one. You want to try to outdo everybody or whatever, which I guess I do. I always try to outdo everybody,
Yeah.
whether that's just me. There's no reason to, but like normally when I go ride, they're like, there's a sketchy line. Hey, John, go hit that. And it's like, okay. So I'm kind of the new line tester or whatever. And, but I don't mind being that. I just, I try to push myself, I guess, all the time. I'm always trying to go outside my comfort zone.
Mhm.
If you just stay in your comfort zone, it's going to be
Yeah, no.
hard to really gain forward. So I'm always just, and that's kind of part of being a big sender too, is just, it's not really comfortable to be a big center, but a lot of times you'd be surprised if you hit something that you'll actually make it. I mean, not always, but like there's a lot of times you'll be like, holy crap, I wouldn't have thought I could have made that. And then when you actually do it, it actually works out. And then from that point on, you're like, that's basically a new skill in your tool bag. It's like, oh, I can do that now. I didn't realize I could. But that kind of comes from being a sender a little bit. I'm not trying to tell everybody to go out here and just send everything, but like it, you could, a lot of times, yeah, I think you'll surprise yourself what you can do if you just
Yeah.
actually go for it. But no, I
Yeah.
never
I
really.
find that when I
Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, that's a little bit of delay.
I was gonna say I find I find that when I really commit to something, whether or not I'm really 100% sure I have the skill to do it, it
Hmm.
usually works out. But
Yeah,
if I hesitate, then I screw it up. So
yeah,
I just have to go for it. So like I was telling my friend this the other day, like if I'm out on a trail ride, because of my skill level and I completely get it, people tend to stop right before an obstacle, like right in front of a big rock to get up, and they will stop and they want to talk to me about what line to go up it. And I'm like,
yeah.
I get that, but like at the same time, if I
If they
stop,
would have
first of
just.
all, it takes me a second to get back on my bike. And like,
Hmm.
yeah. And then like if I just go 90% of the time, I can just figure it out as I go through it. And
Yeah,
like I kind of understand that because I feel like sometimes I do that, but I've also I don't know. I look at lines really weird, apparently. Like, I had a couple friends tell me that, like, that were behind me these last few weeks, and they're like, dude, you picked the craziest line to go through that. Like, it was not the easy line. I'm like, the easy line was right next to the cliff. So I would rather go over the big rock that I know it's going to take a little bit more to get over, but like, that to me is the better line. So
Yeah, that's probably from past trauma from tumbling down hills.
it was before that. Okay.
No, that's another thing that I've noticed too, that a lot of people like getting into hard enduro is you'd be surprised that the bigger lines sometimes are actually easier. Like not like everybody
Yeah.
gets scared to ride the tops of the big rocks and stuff, but 9 times out of 10, if you ride on top
Hmm.
the rocks, it's a lot smoother ride than trying to push your bike between the cracks of the rocks. So that's something I've been really kind of figuring out
Hmm.
in the last while by riding. It helps if you can ride with better riders than you are or whatever, because that helps push you a little bit. But I've noticed that if you ride like the tops of the big rocks, and a lot of times it's a lot smoother and less, you're less likely to get pinched and stuck and be off your bike pushing, because hard enduro is all about saving energy and like not having to push your bike, because if you have to push your bike, that's just that much more energy you have to, and the more energy you can have, the faster you can ride, and you want to really save your energy. So riding the tops of the rocks kind of helps keep you from pushing. And another thing too, it seems like if there seems like there's always traction, you just have to change the way you're, whatever you're doing. If you're in a tight spot and you're stuck and you're not getting traction, look around, move your back tire a little bit, do something body positioning. But usually there's traction. If you just gotta have to, there's no like just sitting there revving your bike and spinning the tire is not really going to get you anywhere. Like there's, you have to change something, and a lot of
Hmm.
times, 9 times out of 10 in a technical spot, a lot of people rev their bike, and I'm not saying I've never done it either. Like US Hard Enduro posted a video of me looping my bike out from revving it and smashing my elbow and everything else. But I I've learned since then though, like usually like half throttle on a lot of obstacles and just finding the traction and like being more, paying attention to more
Hmm.
traction than actually throttle. Like, and yeah, ride ride the tops of the rocks. Like if you're going to pull up to a big rock garden, like a lot of times you can ride on top of the rocks, especially if it's not on a hillside. If it's on a hillside, you kind of just got to wedge yourself in there and work your way up it. But if it's pretty fairly flat or, slightly sloped rock garden, like ride the tops of the rocks, it's usually way better than to ride the cracks. But
Hmm.
that's the thing. Like a lot of people, like I think that's where it helps me, because I'm kind of the big center guy, is that like I guess I don't get scared to ride the tops of the rocks, and it helps me in the technical stuff where a lot of people are scared to ride the tops of the rocks, and they're like, they'll take the other smaller line, and then it actually makes them go slower. But yeah,
No, that's good to know. I haven't done a ton of rock gardens necessarily, but yeah, I definitely don't like getting stuck like in the cracks between everything. And then like
yeah,
it's just super awkward.
yeah. And people will just, you can burn so much energy if you get stuck down between the rocks too. It's
Mhm.
unreal. Like, and I'm guilty of it too in the past, just burning so much energy, and then it pretty much ruins the rest of your race if you burn yourself out just trying to push through the rocks and not just trying
Mhm.
to ride smarter and just be more technical with your riding instead of just pushing and bulldozing your way through the rocks. Like you can get through them either way, but you're just gonna be gassed by the time you get done with it. Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, I totally get that. So talking about like, that your fitness has to be kind of a little bit better for hard enduro. I mean, I don't think you can be really unfit and do hard enduro. You have to be able
Well,
to pick up your bike and do all this stuff. So, um,
yeah.
what do you
Um,
do for like fitness and nutrition?
um, Nutrition, I'm not very good at that. I mean, I try to eat pretty healthy for the most part, like, and I try to eat like my three solid meals a day, and I try to eat a pretty hearty breakfast most of the time, which I'm a pretty skinny person. I think I have a very high metabolism, so that I can pretty much eat a lot. But I do some running, so I just do jogging or whatever not. So that to me, jogging helps tremendously in hard enduro because it just gets your lungs like and your physical stamina. Like stamina is the main thing I feel like with hard enduro as far as like I mean, some people I guess if you're struggling to pick up your bike, you're going to want to work on your arms and stuff. But for me, my biggest
Mhm.
struggle with hard enduro is just the physical stamina of like being able to keep that high pace. Because once you get up to top of A class and beyond, you do a 5 hour race and it's pretty much constant 5 hour race. You're not stopping and taking breaks and stuff like some of the other classes do. You're pretty much like if you want to be the top of that class, you're gonna have to pretty much be on a pretty steady roll for the 5 hours or whatever your race is. So to me, stamina is
Mhm.
a huge thing and endurance. I do some running, jogging. I don't do a lot, but like 2 to 3 miles at a time. A lot of times if I do. And
Mhm.
then I do work outside and I do carpentry work. So I think that helps with my arms and everything because I'm constantly climbing. I'm always like basically almost doing chin ups because you climb up and down a building and whatever, not in ladders all day and whatever. So that kind of I think that gets my arms a little better for hard enduro. So yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, I don't think you necessarily have to be like super super fit in hard enduro, but as long as you have endurance and you have basically the strength to pick up your bike, you can do pretty good. And of course, height helps too. But
Some of us can't help it with the height thing, you know?
yeah, which I don't know. I've never really rode much of the. I mean, I've rode lowered bikes, so that's the only thing I could really say for people that are struggling with the short stuff or for the short problem. But um, yeah, but I think yeah, cardio is a huge thing of hard enduro. So if you can just do a lot of cardio and stuff, that kind of stuff helps with hard enduro more than like going out into the gym and getting buff and big. I don't think that's really gonna benefit you as much as the cardio would.
Okay.
But
And then the other side of that is like, so when you're out in a race and you're kind of like challenged, whether it's, you know, you had your bike issues or whatever, you come to a section that you don't make it the first try. So these are different things that you have to overcome. Like, how do you keep a good like mindset, or like how do you push through in situations like that? Like, what keeps you going?
well, I think I'm just a very kind of a naturally competitive person. So I feel like I don't really have a lot of quit in me. But yeah, I think the main thing like I always tell myself if I get to an obstacle and I'm like very struggling with it, I just tell myself I'm gonna get
Mhm.
up it. It's just a matter of how long. Like I just I just put that in my mind. I was like I'm not gonna quit. I'm gonna get up this obstacle. It's just a matter of how long it's gonna take me. You gotta just don't have
Yeah.
that I can't do this attitude into the thing. You just gotta be like, okay, I gotta figure this out. It's like a puzzle. Like, how am I gonna get? I just gotta. You can't just say, oh, it looks too bad or whatever. I think I just in my mind, it's like I don't. I just say, you know what? I'm gonna get up it no matter what it is, how hard it is, whatever. Not, I'll find a way up, but it might take
Mhm.
me a little longer. So yeah, you just have to be in that mindset of that. Don't ever let it cross through your mind that well maybe I'm just gonna no I can't do this. I can't do this. Don't let that cross your mind. Like you can not anybody could finish a hard enduro, almost any hard enduro. It's just a matter of how long it takes you. So I mean, of course, it
Yeah.
might take somebody 24 hours to finish a hard enduro that somebody might do in 4, but it's still like just keep that in your mind. Like you can do it. You just got to keep that positive mindset that it's just gonna. It's just a matter of how long it's gonna take me. No, not if I can or can't do it.
Mhm.
But I mean, of course, you can always
Yeah.
get help from another racer or something like that too. But I yeah, I try. I'm in being very competitive kind of helps too, so because that gives me a little more incentive to try to try to hit something more than once too. Because I like a lot of times I'm fairly close to the front if I'm not running in the front, so
Mhm.
I am like, oh, there's that person. If you can kind of keep somebody that you're right, it helps if you have somebody like that you're trying to kind of racing against or battling it out with or whatever. So if you guys can kind of
Mhm.
battle that out, it really helps keep you going and give you that ambition to try to get up through something. And especially if they're behind you, you really like going to be pushing hard to get up it. But or if they're just right in front of you, you're going to try to take a crazy line to get around them or whatever you got to do to get or push a little harder to try to get past them, and then so on. So that's because normally, yeah, if you're really competitive, it's going to help you a lot.
When we met at TKO, there
Hmm.
was this really awesome, what was it, like a 2-hour delay. How
Yeah,
much
really
did that
awesome.
mess with your mindset going into the race?
Um, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like, I think it did kind of bother me a little bit, but because I think I was kind of like I kind of get in my zone and like I was in the practice area and I was just kind of all amped
Mhm.
up and just like ready to pull up to the line and go. So as far as arm pump goes, I feel like it could have probably affected me a little bit. As far as mindset goes,
Mhm.
I'm not sure. Like I don't think it bothered me terribly, but the food aspect was definitely getting to me a little bit because I was kind of hungry. Because I normally before a race I can't really
Yeah.
eat. I try to force myself to eat, and I can't really eat. So the food aspect was definitely getting to me, and then yeah, the arm pump I think probably did was a little worse because of that 2 hour delay. But
Mhm.
I don't feel like it overly messed with my riding skill level. I mean, I think I was. I mean, I once it usually takes me. I want to say probably 20 minutes into the race before I really get into my zone. So, like, I don't think it really matters
Mhm.
how my start goes. Like, but once I get into the race, about 20 minutes or something, give or take a little, I really start getting into my flow, I guess. So, and on a hard enduro, for the most part, 20 minutes, like you have a 4 hour race, so it doesn't matter if it takes you 20 minutes to get going. But TKO is a little shorter race,
Mhm.
so too, so that does affect me some because it takes me a while just to get like feel like where I'm riding at my best level. I would like to try to figure out how to
Yeah.
kind of get to that point before I'm at the starting line, but um, I don't know. I'm not sure how to do that. I need to. I guess that maybe I need to
Okay.
practice ride
Interesting.
more ahead of time or something before I get into a race.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if anybody would have any advice for you.
No,
Because
I
I
don't
have
know.
no idea. I'm not a racer. So.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've talked to a good bit of people that say, yeah, I don't really like get into my groove until I get out there a little bit. I think it's probably a lot to do with nerves and just being at more races. The more races you go to, probably the less
Mhm.
nervous you are. Because I think once you get out there for about 20 minutes, you're like, okay. Yeah, I've talked to several other people, and that probably is a lot to do with nerves. That your nerves kind of take over a little bit at first, and you're not riding at your best level. But once you're out there for like several minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever, you kind of get like, okay, I'm out here to do my job. Like I'm out here to race. your mind kind of gets back into that zone. But
Mhm.
at first, you probably got a lot of adrenaline going and stuff because at the starting line, you're sitting there, you're like 10 seconds, your heart's racing. It's hard to think quite straight. I think so. That's probably a lot to do with it. The more races you're in, and the more that you're around, the little bit calmer you'll be at the start line, and probably the smoother you'll be to start off with. But I would say, I mean, it's kind of how it seems. Like once you get out there, you're just like, oh, okay, now it's time to go to work. Like, but yeah, I'm pretty excited to see how this
Okay.
next year comes.
Cool. Yeah, I am too. So, do you want to talk about kind of what some of the differences are going into 2025? What you've got going on with your race program?
Well, I was 2024. I raced with Talking Hills Bike Rental on a Husqvarna 300. So this year I will be riding with Matt Adams and Champion Brick right here, whatever. That was the yeah. So I'll be on the Matt Adams Champion Brick bike. So that's a pretty big change. Um, it'll be interesting. He's currently building my bike right now for setting it up for me. So I'm pretty excited to be out there with him and Tobin and Tucker and all them. So it'll be pretty interesting to see how 2025 goes with a different race team. And uh, I feel like, yeah, if we I'll be pushing, we'll all be pushing each other out there too, because me and Tucker will be in the same class, so it's gonna be like a friendly team battle kind of thing or whatever. So I feel like that'll help a little bit. But yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
exciting.
that's
I'm
really
I'm
cool.
pretty stoked about it. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, he's supposedly it's gonna be helping me out with quite a bit of stuff. So we'll see. Yeah, yeah,
That's really
uh,
awesome. That's great to see you getting that kind of support.
yeah. Just trying to think. And Matt's pretty well known in the hard enduro, so it's pretty cool to be on his team. Racing for him. So it's just, yeah, it'll be cool
Yeah.
just to be part of his whole thing. Um, yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but
Yeah, for
hopefully
sure.
hopefully he doesn't
Um
fire me.
I highly doubt it. Um, with Matt, so Matt done over to Romaniacs and done races like that. If you could pick any race to go to overseas and it was all paid for, which race would you pick to go to?
um, it would probably be the Romaniacs, or what is the one in the mind? What the heck's that called? What's the one in the mine? They start off in the
Hersberg?
mine. Erzberg Rodeo. It would be one of those two if I had to pick. I'm not sure. Romania is just a long race. I feel like because it's like a week event or something in it. So I'm not sure how that would go, but I,
Hmm.
I feel like Erzberg would be kind of right up my alley because it's like a lot of rocks and technical stuff. So that would be a pretty good toss up right
Hmm.
there. But I almost think I would rather go to Erzberg, even though um, I'd always Romaniacs was like the first hard enduro I ever even seen on TV, and I seen Jarvis racing it, so that was kind of like always something I wanted to do was the Erzberg. But and in like United States or I would probably one of the ones I really would like to do is either Grinding Stone or Donner. The Donner one just looks like
Interesting
a big
choices.
a big mix of terrain. Like the Donner is, I probably would be Donner. I would rather do because it's such a difference. Like you start off at the bottom of the mountain and it might be warm, and then you get up to the top and it could be snowing. So that would be it'd be kind of interesting to
Yeah.
do that much elevation change. But
Hmm.
yeah, what about you? What's your
Okay.
pick
Cool.
of
Um,
foreign races,
mm,
I guess.
for like the world
Yeah,
or US?
probably the world.
Um, uh, I don't know that I could race any of the ones in the world. If I had the skill, I think I would love to do Sea to Sky, just because that one's so epic. Um, you start
I
at the
forgot
beach
about
and you
Sea
go
to
to the
Sky.
way top of Mount Olympus, and it's just huge and yeah,
Yeah, I forgot about that
it's
one. Now you got me
incredible to
second guessing my
watch.
Erzberg.
Um, you can't take my answer. No, I actually Erzberg would probably be my second. Erzberg was the first hard enduro that I ever watched, and that was probably like 10 years ago. And yeah, just that's pretty epic in and of itself, but it'd be really cool to go. That one supposedly has like a really crazy atmosphere around it and just like a big party, but then it's also this really gnarly race and it's just, it's just like what people think of when they think of hard enduro. So I feel like it'd be really
Yeah,
cool to go to that and kind of experience that. I'm hoping to go in 25, but we'll see. So
I see. Yeah,
not to
the
race, just to go.
Erzberg, they're Erzberg, they're like hard enduro is like huge over there. So compared to America, Erzberg, I mean that
Mhm.
area in the world is hard enduro is a lot bigger than it is in the U.S. now right now at this point. So I think it would be like you said, it would be kind of cool to
Yeah.
go somewhere where they appreciate hard enduro to the extent that a lot of us hard enduro riders
Mhm.
do. Because yeah, like there's not
Yeah.
near as many people that even know about hard enduro in America compared to like all over the world. So yeah, I can see where you're coming from there on
Yeah.
that. I mean, but yeah,
Yeah. I want to go ride everywhere though. I'm ridiculous like that. Like I there's not races everywhere, but I would go ride everywhere. Like Jarvis has the signature tours and they just opened up one in Colombia. They just advertised for Turkey again and like he's got them all over the world and I'm just like I just need to do like a Jarvis world tour and just go to all of them.
there you
I
go.
think that'd
You
be
just
really
follow him
fun.
around, tell him to bring your bike with him. You'd be his camera or you'd
Well,
be
you can
his
rent
interview
bikes
person.
there. So each
Yeah,
so yeah, I don't know. We'll see if it pans out, but I'm really hoping to get to one or two of the tours. If I do get overseas to get to Erzberg and Sea to Sky this year, I'd really like to hit a couple of those tours while I'm over there. So I think it'd
yeah,
be, I mean, since I'll be over there anyway, might as well, right?
yeah. That's half the expenses getting over there. So if you're over there, you might as well
Yeah,
get on the bike
exactly.
a little bit. Oh, I would definitely like to get over there and do some of those races
Exactly.
at some point in life, but I'm not sure exactly when that'll be. But it would be definitely would be a dream to go over there and race some of those races, just to see how different it is compared to like the United States and stuff, and like videos never do no justice. So
Mhm.
like when you watch Erzberg on the TV, you're like, oh, I'd go right up that hill,
Oh yeah.
and then like to see it in person would be like, oh, maybe I wouldn't go right up that hill. uh,
Yeah, no, I feel like I've talked to several people who've gone over there for different races. Matt's gone to Romaniacs and then Dimitri's gone to Romaniacs and to Sea to Sky. And so it's
hmm
kind of cool to hear their takes on those races and kind of how different it is. And um Matt was talking about how we we both kind of wish that there was more opportunities for like even just the top riders don't have very much opportunity to go overseas and race over there. Even if you take the top 10 pros, they don't all have that opportunity. It's really as far as
Yeah.
I know, and I could be wrong, it was just Cody and Tristan that were going over to do those races.
Did
So,
Ryder not get
I
to
think
go
it'd be
over
really
there?
cool to see more people. I don't think so. Um, but it'd be really cool to see some of those guys who are our top talent go over there and,
Hmm.
check it out. And they're going to bring all that experience back. And I
Oh
think that
yeah,
would be really cool. So I'm
and
hopeful
then
that, like, as things go forward, maybe the economy gets better and then they can get some better contracts that can help them get over there and do that. The last couple things that I had for you was you kind of already talked about this, but to sum it up in like 10 seconds of teaching, um, what would be your best advice for somebody who's brand new to dirt biking overall in general?
brand new to dirt biking.
Yeah. What's your best advice for somebody who's just got a bike and their first time on it?
Um, Let me think here. That's a good question. I would just say work on the fundamentals like of dirt bikes. I guess if you've never been on a dirt bike, just slowly
Mhm.
build on the fundamentals and like work on your skills like as kind of like I mentioned earlier. But yeah, just like work on your basics. Don't try to go send everything, I guess, if you're not to that point yet. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I would just try to get like I don't know, just your clutch control. That's a huge thing. Like get
Mhm.
that down. Just do little baby steps on that. Balance is a huge thing. So even prior to getting on a dirt bike, if you have good balance, it's going to help you. Um, I'm just trying to think. Yeah, and don't use more than first gear for the while because if you've like never been on a dirt bike, getting up to last gear, yeah, sometimes you could go pretty fast and whatever not and still be upright, but if you don't know how the bike's going to react or anything, if you're not used to it, and it could be dangerous. But
Yeah.
yeah, just take things slow, I guess. Yeah, don't get crazy with it. But once you kind of get the fundamentals down, then you can kind of start pushing yourself. But you definitely want to try to get the fundamentals of just riding a dirt bike in general, stopping, starting, I guess,
Yeah.
you know, clutch control, if it has a clutch, and then balance is, of course, a huge key. But yeah, that would be the main things to just try to get the fundamentals down of riding a dirt bike before you go trying to go ride hard enduro or whatever. But once you got to a certain point, like once you get the fundamentals of riding, then you can start pushing yourself a little bit. But you want to get the basics down first.
Cool. And then the next part is, again, we talked about it already, but a quick summary of like your advice for somebody that's new to hard enduro. Not necessarily racing, but just riding that kind of terrain.
Yeah. Um, I'm trying to. If you have some buddies that you can find that like that, or try to get into some groups that are like hard enduro orientated, it helps a lot. It's gonna help get you riding, into cooler spots, and they'll show you cool things, and then you'll learn a lot more about hard enduro if you ride with hard enduro people. So if you can kind of find some people that are like minded, that's really going to help you probably get into hard enduro more, and you'll enjoy it more. And another thing with hard enduro too, like it seems to me, I try to tell everybody that because a lot of people I think give up right quick into hard enduro because they're like, oh, this is crazy, this and that. All we're doing is just shoving our bikes around. Like we're not doing anything fun. We're not going fast. But I always try to tell everybody the better you get, the funner it gets. So like it's kind of weird to say it like that, but the better like you get a hard enduro, like every little thing is like a fun thing instead of like, oh, that looks miserable. You see a big rock after the better you get, it's like, oh, that looks fun. Compared to when you first started, everything's just miserable. So like stick with it
Yeah.
for a while. Don't just give up at first. It's going to take a while to get. You're not going to be Graham Jarvis level right off the bat. So just try to try to stick with it and see because the better you get, the funner it gets. I mean, like at first you're gonna hate it. You're probably not gonna hardly like it. It's just gonna be like, what the heck? Why are we out here? Like we could be on the trail right there. Why are we in the rocks? There's a trail right there.
Yeah.
That's what I get from a lot of people that like don't ride much hard enduro. They're just, and I think you have to be a little bit crazy to like hard enduro too. So that's, I
Mhm.
guess we all got that in
Yeah.
common.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
there's usually a perfectly good trail there 20 feet away, but we're off here in the ravine or trying to go up this weird thing with a log in the middle of the hill or something. So you have to be a little bit off your rocker, I guess, to be in the hard enduro scene. And yeah, and to actually love it, you have to be a little bit, you have to have a little bit of a mental side to actually love it like we do, I guess.
I
Yeah, I
agree.
mean
I agree
it
100%.
has to be in you a little bit, but yeah, that would be my main advice is just give it some time. Practice, just don't just go out there and try it once and say, "Oh, I hate it," because I've had several guys that I ride with, and they're not hard enduro oriented at all. They just like to go out and trail ride. But the first couple times I took them out, they were just like, "Oh my goodness, this is just why I'll never do this again." Da 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 da. And now they ride hard enduro on a fairly decent basis, and whether they like to admit it or not, they do kind of like it now. So I mean, it just don't give up on the first ride. You know, give it some time. It'll come
Yeah. Good.
for sure.
Good. I like that. All right. Well, then this last couple minutes that we have is for you to give any shout outs or thank yous or anything like that.
Well, I guess I want to shout out to Champion Brick for setting up my bike, and that's about the only sponsors really I got right now. So, Champion Brick and even Hawking Hills for helping me through everything, you know, and helping me get to where I'm at. Because if it wouldn't be for them guys, I wouldn't be in the hard enduro scene. So, like, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not ungrateful to them at all. So I definitely want to shout out to them and yeah, the U.S. Hard Enduro, of course, for putting on all the race and stuff, and uh, hopefully they can keep growing in the United States and get bigger and everything. So
Yeah.
hopefully all that. I'm not real good at this kind of thing, but yeah, that's the main people I want to thank.
Awesome.
And I will
Well,
also
I really
thank
oh,
you.
go ahead. Oh, thank you. Yeah. No, I'm really glad that we were finally able to do this. This was really cool because we definitely got to talk in that couple hours that we sat there in the sun. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah. I feel like you kind of already had my story from that point, but you didn't have it on camera. But yeah,
yeah, exactly. So I thought it was really cool. And you actually gave a lot more detail this time. So I mean, we
well,
weren't sure before. It was like 10 minutes, we're gonna be delayed another 10 minutes. And so it was
yeah,
just like
so it
little
was like
chunks of talking.
long story short kind of thing there. Yeah. So
Yeah.
now we
Yeah.
kind of got to go in a little more detail about it. I mean, I probably did miss a little bit, but it's hard to sum up the about the 3 years or whatever that I've been kind of in the hard enduro scene. Well, yeah, somewhat 3 years,
Yeah. Yeah. No,
but
this is awesome. I'm super stoked. So thank you again for your time. I know you're super busy, so I really appreciate it.
no problem. I'm glad to be on here. Maybe sometime again after I get better.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I was gonna say we've kind of been talking about doing updates for like racers like every like, so often if they want to come back
Yeah,
and give an update.
yeah,
So for sure. Yeah.
okay, yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, thank you again, and I guess we
Well,
will talk to you later.
all right, thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.